Hello everyone, here is a review exercise for your first comprehensive assignment in AC116, Managerial Accounting. In this assignment, we're going to have to follow a step-by-step process. We are a company, Marge's Sofas. They are a brand new company beginning operations in the year 20XX. They are a company that specializes in making custom order furniture, which means they're going to use job order costing to do so. They're going to keep job cost records for each specialized group of products that they produce. And during the period, they have 3 jobs. Job number 1, production of 20 sleeper sofas for Camp Shelbyville. Job number 2, the production of 30 couches for Sislak Hotels. And job number 3, the production of 10 recliners for Springfield Retirement Home. First step that we're going to have to do is go through, look at all of our requisitions and our labor time tickets and figure out what direct costs, materials, and labor we have to assign to each one of these jobs, what amount of overhead we're going to have to assign to each one of these jobs based upon our predetermined allocation rate, and ultimately what was the cost of each job. And then after we have our job cost records for the 3 jobs, we can use them to record our journal entries, find the balance of all of our different various accounts, and for this example, make your cost of goods manufactured schedule and your income statement. Let's start by filling in the job cost records. For job number 1, we're making 20 sleeper sofas for Camp Shelbyville. To make things easy, instead of giving you a big list, I've taken out the information that is pertinent to each job cost record and putting it directly above where you need to fill it in. So, for job 1, we have the following information, that on January 2nd, their direct laborers requisitioned $1,900 worth of direct materials. Well, start at the job cost record. On January 2nd, in requisition number 1, their workers requisitioned $1,900 worth of materials. And we're going to add that to the cost of the job as we are keeping track of it. On January 3rd, employees worked on job number 1 and they were paid $2,350 in wages for their work. Let's keep track of that. On January 3rd, this is labor time record number 1. Employees made $2,350 that day. We had a bunch of people bombard these 20 sleeper sofas to get them made. Our third bullet tells us that on January 11th, direct laborers requisitioned an additional $1,600 worth of direct materials from storage for use in job number 1. This is requisition number 4, so let's put that $1,600 into our job cost record. And then for our last little bullet point right here, on January 16th, employees worked on job number 1 and they were paid $2,150 for their work. So on 1/16, in labor time record number 4, we're going to add another $2,150 worth of direct labor costs to the value of this job. And now we can figure out in total, since it's all the information we have related to materials and labor, what amount of materials and what amount of labor were used in job number 1. Well, and for materials, we requisitioned $1,900 on January 2nd. We requisitioned another $1,600 on January 11th. That totals up to $3,500. Let's get that out of here. For direct labor, we had workers work directly on this job and earned $2,350 on January 3rd and another $2,150 on January 16th. That is a total of $4,500. That's 2 of our 3 cost components for this particular job. We need the third, which is manufacturing overhead. And the last bullet tells us how we're going to figure that out. As the company does with all jobs, Marge's, not various violins, my apologies, Marge's allocates manufacturing overhead to jobs at a rate of 200% of direct material costs. All right then, what are we going to do here? We are going to, on January 31st, allocate a portion of overhead to this job. We're going to take a chunk of those indirect costs out of our pool and put them into this job, equal to essentially double 200% whatever our direct material costs were. So our rate is 200% of direct material costs. Well, what is that going to be? Well, we spent $3,500 on direct material, so if we multiply that by 2, that's 200%. It's $7,000. We had $7,000 worth of overhead that needs to be assigned to job number 1. What is the total cost of job number 1? It's the sum of the 3 cost components that we have above. $3,500 of material, $4,500 of labor, and $7,000 of overhead, which we allocated. That totals up to $15,000. We spent $15,000 to make 20 sleeper sofas. So how much did any one sleeper sofa cost us? We'll just take the total cost of the job and divide it by the quantity produced. 15,000 divided by 20 comes out to be $750. And that is job 1's job cost record. On to job number 2 down here. We are making 30 couches for Sizzlack Hotels. Same process that we used in job number 1. Let's go through our bullet points. On January 5th, our laborers requisitioned $2,500 worth of direct materials for use in this job, and that requisition number was number 2. So on January 5th, we requisitioned, in requisition number 2, $2,500 worth of direct materials for use in job number 2. Next bullet tells us that on January 6th, employees worked on job number 2 and were paid $3,000 in wages for their work. So let's say on January 6th, for labor time ticket number 2, there are $3,000 worth of direct labor costs, which we need to assign to this particular job. Next bullet tells us that on January 20th, in requisition number 5, our laborers went and got $1,500 worth of direct materials out of storage for use in this particular job. So we're going to assign that $1,500 in direct material costs to job number 2. Your next bullet tells us that on January 25th, employees are going to work on job 2 and get paid $3,000 for their wages, which we recorded as labor time ticket number 5. So on January 25th, in labor time ticket number 5, we are going to assign $3,000 worth of labor costs. So what were the total direct materials used? Well, we took $2,500 here and $1,500 here. That means in total $4,000 worth of materials were used in this job. Direct labor costs, it was $3,000 on the 6th and another $3,000 on the 25th. If we add those two together, that is $6,000 worth of direct labor costs. And now we need manufacturing overhead. We're going to do it the same exact way that we did before. We are going to take costs out of our overhead pool and put it into this job at a rate of 200% whatever that job's direct material costs were. Information tells us that we're going to do this on January 31st. So our rate is still 200% of direct labor costs. Well, what is 200% of our labor costs? Well, in this job, our labor costs were $4,000. 200% is just double that, so we multiply it by 2, or 2.00 if you want to be specific for 200%. Comes out to $8,000. So we're going to take $8,000 out of our overhead pool and put it into job number 2. And now, in total, we find out the job number 2 cost an amount equal to the sum of the $4,000 of direct materials, $6,000 of direct labor, and $8,000 of manufacturing overhead. So equals sum, open a parenthesis, highlight all 3 of them, close the parenthesis, and hit enter. We spent $18,000 constructing these 30 couches, which we are going to sell to Sizzlack Hotel by special order. How much did each one cost us then? Take the total cost of the job, which is $18,000, divide it by the number of units produced, 30 couches, and each one of these couches costs us about $600 to make. Our last job that we got to keep track of is the production of 10 recliners for Springfield Retirement Home. Our information tells us that on January 15th, our laborers requisitioned $400 worth of materials for use in this job, and they did so in requisition number 3. So let's fill in that section of our job cost record. The next bullet down tells us that on January 18th, employees are going to work on job number 3 and be paid $800 in wages for their work. So since this is direct labor, we can assign it right to the job cost record on January 18th. For labor time ticket number 3, we'll assign $800 worth of wages. On January 21st, In requisition number 6, our employees are going to requisition $600 worth of direct materials from storage to be used directly in job number 3, so we can assign that traceable direct cost to this job's job cost record. And then on the 30th of January, in labor time ticket number 6, we need to add $200 worth of inventoriable costs to this job for the work that our direct laborers did producing these 10 recliners for Springfield Retirement Home on that day. Now we have those 4 bullet points filled in. Let's go and figure out how much cost we got committed to this job at this point. For direct materials, it was $400 requisitioned on the 15th and another $600 requisitioned on the 21st. So in total, Marja Sofas spent $1,000 on materials which were used in the production of these 10 recliners for Springfield Retirement Home in job number 3. For labor, employees earned $800 on the 18th and another $200 on the 30th. That's another $1,000. And now we got to figure out our manufacturing overhead. We're going to assign this at the end of the period on January 31st. And just like we did in the other ones, we're going to do it at a rate of 200% of direct material costs. So what is 200% of the direct material cost of this job? Well, if direct material costs were 1,000 times 2.00 means that we should be allocating $2,000 for the overhead out of our pool and in to job number 3. So in total, job 3 costs amount equal to the sum of direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Close the parenthesis, hit enter, we find out that is $4,000. And if it costs $4,000 to make 10 recliners, well then each unit that we produced cost us $400. Total cost divided by the quantity produced. And now that we have our job cost records ready to go, we can use that to help us fill out our journal entries, make our T's, and eventually get on to our financial statements.